and welcome to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. On today's show, I have Harriso'malley, also known as Dr. NerdLove. He's an internationally recognized blogger and dating coach and gives dating advice to geeks of all stripes, making nerds sexier since 2011. I love that. So how are you, Harris? Thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. So today's topic is I guess I could say meeting women and you're still struggling to go out with them. So tell us about your background. How did you start? Why pick this field? And how long have you been helping nerds out?
So I stumbled into this backwards. If you had approached me when I was in college and told me that this was what I was going to be doing for a living, well, first of all, I would have asked for lottery numbers because you clearly came from the future, but also I would have thought you were crazy. I felt as like randomly into this as I possibly could. So this all came about a very long-winded way because I like pretty much everybody who reads my column and writes in for help. I was awful at meeting women, at maintaining relationships. I had one serious relationship under my belt, which was a toxic mess that like really set me back a lot. And then everything after that, it's like every time I tried to talk to a woman, it's just I either froze up, said the wrong thing, or did some catastrophically comedically awful event. And it didn't help that I was surrounded by some of my oldest and dearest friends, like my brother, who is a rocket scientist and Olympic level athlete, and a good buddy of mine who I call Miles, who he attracts women the way that cheese attracts mice. When he was around, none of the rest of us might as well have existed. And he was and is a gorgeous human being, and it's impossible to hate him because he's also one of the genuinely nicest, sweetest people you will ever meet. So it's like, why can't you have a flaw? No, damn it.
So he was a nice guy, but he also was a chick magnet.
Yeah, he was a genuinely good, sweet guy, and that's part of what women loved about him. So, like, he doesn't have a mean bone in his body, and again, it just makes it so hard to be mad at him. So one night we're all at a wedding, and Miles and I both got interested in the same woman, and this was like bad rom-com setup where the two of us are kind of competing for her. And like I'm doing things like there was a girl who was at the wedding, a woman who was at the wedding who had a crush on him when we were all in school together. So I kind of like threw her at him in hopes that would distract him, and nope, it didn't. And long story short, I used to say Miles won, but in reality, it wasn't a contest. And honestly, I was never in the quote unquote the game to begin with. I never had a shot. She did not like me that way. But it didn't help that Miles's hotel room was butted up next to mine. So for the entire evening, it's just a moment of like, not sure if loud sex or exorcism. So as I am sitting there crying my eyes out, listening to all of this going on, I did what a lot of nerds did at the time and just got on Google and was like, how do I get better with women? And this brought up the first thing that comes up is Neil Strauss's The Game. And this was like 2003, 2004. The book had just come out, and it was revolutionary at the time to me. It's like, what? This is a thing that I can learn. These are skills. It's not a thing that you're just born with. My God, tell me more. I read that like it was the Bible, and then found out that the company that Mystery was setting up in the book at the time was called Mystery Method. Then it turned into Venusian Arts, and I don't know if it even still exists. They were doing a boot camp in Austin where I lived. And I sat there and thought for a second, this is a lot of money. This is the most money I've ever put down at one time for something. I am clearly about to get ripped off. Why am I doing this? Oh, look, my finger slipped. I just bought a ticket. So Despite my misgivings, it turned out to be a really interesting experience. And I learned a lot during it. And it really kind of put me on the path to becoming a pickup artist. And for a while, I was one of the better pickup artists in Austin. I was part of a lair, I was going out regularly, and I hated it. It took me a couple of years, but there came a point one night where I was leaving a bar with a woman, and I realized I was thinking about how we were going to go back to her place, not my place, her place, where we were going to have sex, and then I was going to leave, and I was never going to have to talk to her again. And I realized, like, wait, okay, first of all, I really don't like her that much. I mean, she's hot and all, but like, I literally just want to sleep with her and leave. And then that just spiraled into, and also I go out 5 times a night. I'm exhausted all the time. I don't like the bars I'm going to. I haven't talked to my friends who aren't in the pickup scene in years, and when I do, I only talk about pickup. My friends in the pickup scene, like half of them have literally had mental breakdowns, and I'm on the same path for it, and just spiral thought, spiral thought, spiral thought, until finally get to the point that I look at this woman and I say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do this. It's not you, it's me. I think I'm kind of having a breakdown. Have a good night. Run back to my car, go home, and just have the longest, long, dark night of the soul that I have ever had. I didn't come out of my room for like 2 days. And just when I finally kind of like came out of this fugue, it was like, all right, this clearly can't keep going on, because this is not good for my mental health. I just experienced this. None of this is good. This has made me a really toxic, horrible person. But I like the results I'm getting. I like the women I'm like. I like the fact that I'm dating women, really hot women. I like that I'm getting laid a lot. Is there a way that I can keep doing this and keep my soul? Maybe. Which all entailed a lot of like, all right, I gotta go back to to first principles. What was I taught that was actually true and real? What was I taught that was just completely made up and false? Read so many books on psychology and influence and sexuality, male sexuality, female sexuality, and started kind of like trying to piece together what actually did work and why, what was good and what wasn't. During all of this, I was on a geek interest podcast called The League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen.
I remember the movie.
Yeah. Well, this is called The League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen. It was part
Yeah.
of a
The other one is
review site.
extraordinary, but I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That hence the joke, because we were just a bunch of nerds around town, and we were part of a movie review site called Spill.com. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
And one episode we did was when Scott Pilgrim versus the World came out.
Okay.
And we decided to do our episode called The League versus Our Evil Exes. And it was all going to be about dating. And we took a lot of listener letters and answered questions. And since I was kind of the league's designated man about town, I kind of took point on a lot of the answers. And it was a huge hit. Everybody really loved it. So we decided to do it again for Valentine's Day.
Right.
And we took more questions. We didn't get to all of them, and I felt kind of bad about it. So the next day, I got up early, took some of the questions that we never got around to answering, put together a quick video that I just filmed with my laptop, answered the questions, edited it really quickly, slapped it on to the league's forum, said, all right, here you guys go. We didn't get to all your questions. I wanted to ask the last of these. Here you go. Figured that was going to be the end of it.
Right.
And then people started sending in more questions in the comments. All right, so I'm just going to reply to these real quick. All right, cool. That's going to be the end of it. I hope you guys are having a good time. They sent more questions. Okay, now I can take a hint. So it's like, I got to do something with this. So I quickly threw together a website, hung my shingle out, and then said on the forums, like, hey guys, I'm taking it over here. So if you got any more dating advice questions, this is where to go. And that's how Dr. NerdLove was born.
Wow, that's a great story. So you started this, so you said around 2011. So what was the change? You read the book, and so what was the change inside of you though? What gave you that much more confidence that you could talk to almost any woman, if not every woman that you had your eyes set on? What was that? What was that aha moment? Was it just the book itself, or more? what you felt inside that you say, hey, you know what? I could definitely do this on my own. The book is good. It's a good reference guide, but hey, this is me. This is Harris O'Malley.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The book is not a guide. It's got examples of the routines that Neil and Mystery and all the others used to do, but it's very much a narrative. It is literally the story of Neil living in the house and learning from these guys, but people took
Okay.
it as an instruction manual.
Right.
So that alone is one of kind of the misconceptions of it. But what taught me was going on that boot camp and having people literally like pushing me into talking to women. And at first, it went about as badly as you might expect. But as the night went on and I started kind of working into stuff that they had been teaching us during the day, I was getting better and better results and feeling more and more confident and getting, more and more out of it and feeling like, wait, okay, now I actually have an idea of what I can do. I have seen that it's possible. I had to have someone literally push me to do it. But this is confirming for me. This is not a thing that you're born with. This is a thing that you can learn. This was revolutionary to me. Now, a lot of what I was learning from them, like I said, was toxic as hell or made up out of whole cloth based out of really, really outdated ideas about like male sexuality and female sexuality. And just, really encouraged us to have these false ideas about what women want and what men needed to be.
Mhm.
But at the time, for someone who had never had any ability to really talk to girls or to women, or really for a lot of people in general, even like just guys at the bars, I was having a hard time talking with them too,
Right,
just
right.
making friends. Like this blew my mind. Like all of a sudden, it's just like a whole new world opened up to me. It wasn't an overnight change because it was very much a skill that had to be practiced and had to be learned, refined, but it was one that it's like that the fact that I could see the light at the end of the tunnel where I could learn how to be better at this. That was huge for me. That made me rethink the first time about what this all meant, what this could be. And it was later on as I realized like I've gone the wrong direction. I've gone to the dark side and I need to come back from this. That kind of made me stop, look around and go, this is literally the only advice out there for men.
Right.
Every
Right.
like, otherwise, it's you're either good with women or you're not, and there's no changing that. And if you admit you're not good with women, then you're a loser. And women were really lucky because there are just tons and tons of advice. It's an entire industry
Yeah.
that's out there for helping them get better at relationships, get better at attracting men or women or both, get better at maintaining relationships. Whether the advice is good or not, that's a lot of it can be really thrown up for debate. Some of it, like the rules, was horrible, but it's out there. There's a variety. There's a lot out there. There was nothing for men. It was basically if you don't know what you're doing, too damn bad. And then the pickup scene comes around, and it's like, all right, well, we finally have advice for men. And oh, look, it's basically women are things. Okay, not so good. And so kind of my goal was like, all right, I want to teach people not to make the mistakes that I made and
Sure.
not have to go down the path that I went down to get there. And that's kind of been my philosophy behind a lot of this. It's like, all right, here's stuff that actually works. Here's stuff that's not just weird manipulations, weird pressure tactics that they picked up from like high pressure car sales. No weird like using people, social pressure or making women afraid to say no. Like I want it to be, everybody's having a great time, everybody's getting what they want. It's a win-win. If you want, if you're looking for dating lots of people, cool. If you want to find that one special somebody and settle down, cool. That's the sort of thing I wanted to do, is like help people get the skills they needed so they don't get involved with the same mistakes that I made.
Right. So, Harris, one thing that I wanted to ask you is,
Mhm.
we have men, even whether they're 20 to 60, whatever, still struggling. When I go to single events, sometimes I see guys that are in the corner
Mhm.
and, the event is right here in the middle, but they're on the right side or left side of the lounge. Is that still going on in, let's say, in your circles, that men are still struggling to meet women, or they're just too shy to meet them? Is it does it come down to confidence and shyness? Is that is that a thing? Rejection, is that a part of it also? That men feel they don't want to approach a woman. And for me, Harris, I'll admit, when I was younger, I would already strike myself out by saying, "Oh no, she's too hot. Oh, she probably has a
Mhm.
boyfriend. Oh, you know what? She doesn't look approachable." I mean, I would check off 6 boxes, and I
Yeah.
already knocked myself out before I even let me hear a no. But rejection was a killer, especially when I
Yeah.
was younger.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of what I was going through. It's like I could come up with 1,000 good reasons why I couldn't talk to this person, and
Right.
all of them were very valid to me right at that moment. Uh, but yeah, a lot of that still goes on, and it is a huge bunch of things that all come together. Confidence is definitely part of it. Part of it is just pure social skills. We do
Mm,
not teach social skills. Again, it tends to be something that we tend to see as either you got it or you don't. You only get it through just interact with a lot of people. But if you're someone who is, a little socially awkward, if you're autistic or you have a hard time reading social signals, or if you just don't have a lot of experience being around a lot of other people, it can
right.
feel really intimidating. And then on top of that, there is a real fear of rejection, and for a lot of people, a fear or a feeling that they need to impress this person, or they need to match or prove their worthiness to meet this person, and they never stop to think, but what about me?
Yeah.
Yes, this person is really attractive, but that's literally all I know about them.
Right.
I don't know anything else about them. For all I know, they're someone who thinks that shooting a kitten out of a cannon is their idea of a fun weekend. So why are you getting that hung up on a complete stranger when in reality they could be an awful person? So a lot of it comes down to feeling that feeling of like, well, I've got to justify my interest. I've got to prove that I'm someone that she
Mm,
should be interested in. It's like, no, 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 no. Have a conversation, get to know them, but also find out whether or not they are someone that you should be interested in. Just
right.
because they're hot doesn't mean they're a good person. Just because they're hot doesn't mean that they're in a relationship or they've got 1,000 people talking to them. And it doesn't mean that they're only going to date some random percentage of dudes or that like everybody's got to look like Andrew Tate or some other crap like that. It's all really down to these are people. Have a conversation, say hi, get the conversation going, get to know them,
Right.
and then figure out like, all right, obviously they're good looking. What else do they have going for them that makes them worth my time? And
Right.
obviously you want to be able to bring stuff to the table as well, which is part of what I try to teach guys. But the first step really is stop seeing women as anything other than just people like yourself. They put their pants on the same way we do. They pick their zits, they fart, they scratch their butts, they wake up with bedhead and really nasty morning breath.
Right.
It's the same as guys. The dating concerns are very much the same. Like it is not this weird, crazy world where you gotta do everything absolutely perfectly. I mean, that's another thing that happens. Like, what if I say something wrong? It's like, okay, then, well, if you said something offensive, apologize. But if you said something stupid or something weird happened, just kind of keep going. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember there was one time I love talking about this on the blog because it's absolutely, it looks horrible for me. But I was going up to talk to a couple of women at the bars back when I tried to, I was doing more cold approaches. And as soon as I started trying to talk to them, I choked. And I mean, I literally aspirated on my own spit.
Oh
So I'm
wow.
going up there and I was like, hi, my name's in the old days, I would have tried to dig a hole and pull it in after me. As soon as I could breathe, this time though, as soon as I could breathe again, I was like, okay, that didn't go so well. Let me try that again. Literally just turned around, walked 5 steps away, turned back, walked back towards them like nothing had happened, said, hi, my name's Harris. What's yours?
I love it. I
They
love it.
they loved it. They couldn't stop laughing. They have never seen a guy do that before. And it really kind of came down to, yeah, you know what? The worst thing that happens is I made a bad impression on someone who will not remember me then like as soon as they go home. So,
Right.
what have I got to lose?
Right. I see. But the thing is, Harris, I love the fact that you gained that the confidence by talking to, and the key is having the social skills. And a lot of us don't have it. I know when I was young, I didn't have it. I remember, I think it took me to, wow, I think maybe to my 40s before I went to my first like networking event, a singles networking event. And then I
Mhm,
just forced myself to talk to people because I know they were there for the same reason, to meet
mhm.
someone. So one of the things, Harris, I wanted to ask you, so someone that's shy doesn't have the social skills uh, to become a, let's say, for lack of a better word, chick magnet. What some of advice would you give? Like, how should they start off approaching, let's say, approaching guys first? You know, to get at least that monkey off the back, and then graduate into meeting women.
I mean, the first thing to do is really just work on just being social with everybody.
Right.
And just finding little ways of practicing during the day, during your everyday life, that you don't even have to go out of your way for it. Because if you look around, there's always a bunch of opportunities. Just
Right.
going to get, stopping at Starbucks or your favorite coffee shop in the morning, you got a couple of seconds to kind of like have a random conversation with the people standing around waiting for their order. The person checking you out at the grocery store, how's your day going? Oh, it's pretty good. How's your day going?
Right.
If you're going out to lunch or to dinner somewhere, maybe sit at the counter if they've got a counter. Make very like brief small talk with folks and just kind of let that kind of become a thing that you do. And so it quits being something you have to worry about or you have to think about. It just becomes a little bit more reflexive. And you're
Right.
doing it under low stakes where again, the worst thing that's going to happen is that nobody says anything and they forget you even exist as soon as you leave their eye line. But over time, you just get more used to it because it becomes less scary. And then
Mm.
you can even escalate to just asking random strangers, "Hey, do you know what time it is?" When you get comfortable with that. "Hey, do you know how to get to Mr. Noodle from here? Do you know where the nearest ATM is?" And then as that goes, you can even kind of like get to a little bit, "Yeah, I'm from out of town. I'm just trying to find a good Thai place. Do you look like you're a local? Do you know any good Thai places?"
Right.
And another thing that's really helpful is to just start finding ways of indulging your favorite passions, your favorite hobbies in ways that bring you in contact with other people.
Mm.
So if you're really into, like tabletop gaming, like Dungeons and Dragons, it's really popular these days. It's gained new popularity with stuff like Critical Role and Stranger Things. If you go to gaming stores where they're having like regular events, you're going to be surrounded by other people who are there for the same reason you are, people who really
Right.
love this hobby, and you've got an instant in to just kind of get used to like talking to people and getting to know people. And the more that you can do that, and especially the more you can do that with just everybody, men, women, non-binary pals, people you're attracted to, people you're not attracted to, and that's the important thing. Talk to everybody. Doesn't matter if they're like your perfect type or they're the exact opposite. Talk to everyone, get good at just being friendly with folks, and it goes from being something you're terrified of to just something that you do.
Right.
And some people are introverts and they lose a lot of energy by being that social. Okay, cool. Then part of it is learning how to manage your energy levels so that you don't exhaust yourself trying to do this. Some people are extroverts, so that gives them a bit of an advantage, but in both cases you can have shy extroverts and really outspoken extra introverts. So both of those can learn and both of them have their advantages. And it's important not to let preconceived notions of who you are or who other people are dictate what you are or aren't able to do. If
Mm.
you are defining yourself by your limitations, you're cutting yourself off from some amazing experiences.
And I think that's the key is we cut ourselves off. Again, like I said, I've done it. We're talking with Harriso'malley, Dr. NerdLove, and today's topic is why am I still struggling to meet women? So Harris, one of the things that I liked is being in a social setting with like-minded people. I think
Mhm.
that's one of the best ways to start. I remember when I first went to a singles event. Again, I was in my 40s. And I know there was like I remember the TV and there was some sports. I think it was a baseball game or Yankees, whatever. So I'm watching with a couple of the guys there, and we started talking. And then from there, I just felt for some reason a little bit more confident. And then I just started approaching women and getting to know them and all that. I don't think I left with a number that day, but I felt a little bit more comfortable that I could
Mhm.
do this. And then then I graduated to speed dating and things like that. Would you recommend that to some of people that are in their 20s and 30s, maybe speed dating and things like that? Because you are forced to talk to someone for at least five
Mhm.
minutes.
Yeah, speed dating gets it really interesting because one of the things that's kind of cool about speed dating, they've done some studies about this. Who is sitting and who's milling around
Mm.
changes the vibe entirely. Most speed dating events, women are the ones sitting and the men are the ones circulating. And as a result, the women tend to be very picky. They're going to be very choosy about who they feel like they match with, whereas the men tend to match with a lot more people.
Right.
If you reverse that, if the men are sitting and the women are circulating, you get the same effect.
Mm.
So the men will be more choosy and the women are going to be a little bit more broadly accepting. They're going to be the ones like matching with more people. So that's kind of cool. And so keeping an idea of what that dynamic is going to be helpful, because otherwise you can go to these and feel like, I didn't get any matches. What's wrong with me? Nothing. Sometimes you just have bad luck and you're not meeting people who are, you're connecting with and compatible with. Because that's the thing a lot of people won't tell you. Dating can really be a numbers game, and you're
Right.
looking for people who you mesh well with. And if you don't mesh with someone, or you've got some reason why the two of you are not a good match, it doesn't matter how hard you try, it's not going to work. That's nobody's fault. It's just bad luck.
It's just bad luck. Yeah.
But with the speed dating, what I always recommend to people is, if you're going to do this, look at this as a way of just skipping the small talk and connecting with someone real quick, figuring out, it's like, hey, what makes you tick? Here's what makes me tick. Instead of being like, the hi, so where did you go to school? This is your first time in one of these things. I'm like, yeah, I never know what I'm doing here. Instead, just kind of sit down. It's like, hey, you know what? Tell me the most interesting thing you've done this week.
I like that. You're telling a story, get to know them. You know what it is too, Harris? I think also when you go to events, whether it's a business event or a singles event, it seems like the inevitable question is always, "Oh, what do you do?"
Mhm.
So when that question pops up, should you, pour out your heart and say, "Well, I work here. I work at GameStop. I work, for Apple." How do you handle that navigation of war when you have people asking you, what do you do? Because sometimes I'm like, gee, I don't want to talk about what I do. Just maybe ask me something else. What do you think about that?
It really depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes,
Okay.
well, personally, I've got the "you'll never guess what I do for a living" game down pat. Like, I love that because no one ever guesses. But so that's like, I find it's syndicated dating advice column. What? I never would pick that one out. Uh, but a lot of times, if I was, especially, before I started doing this professionally, and I was between jobs, they'd be like, "So what do you do?" I would do one of two things. Either I would steal a line from one of my favorite movies and say, "Oh, I'm retired. I invented dice." Or the other thing that I would do is, instead of saying what I did, I would say what I was passionate about. And that was also
Right.
true when I was like doing jobs that I just absolutely hated and I was only doing it for the money. It's like, what do you do? Well, this pays the bills. What I really love to do is I've been working on, making graphic novels. Oh,
Right.
that's really cool. So talking about your passion is something that feels really important to you and really connects to who you are. That can be a much better answer, because that gets much more to the core of you as a person and gives
Right.
someone kind of an insight into who you are, rather than necessarily like if you've got a job that you don't care for.
Right, right. I love that because at times when I was working at my current or my job before, I just didn't want to talk about it. I'm like, Jesus. So then I just started talking about other stuff. I like real estate
Mhm.
investing, or I like podcasting, and I would talk more about that than I
Mhm.
would about my previous job. So for before I let you go, again, Harris, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Any last tips for those gentlemen out there that are looking to meet someone nice? They've been single for a long time. Any advice?
Yeah, there are three things that I always tell people that about how to get better at meeting women and how to make sure you're meeting the right women.
Right.
First is, know who you're trying to match with and who you're compatible with. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of guys make is that they try to hook up with people that they think they're supposed to like. So it's like, everybody, oh, you want the hot club girl. That's what I was taught when I was in the pickup scene. Yeah, you want to get the girls at the clubs. It's like, okay, well, actually, the clubs are loud, smoky, and really overpriced, and I hate them. And most of the people who are there have lifestyles that are absolutely not compatible with me. So, bad choice there. But the girls who like to hang out and do really interesting stuff, like, all right, I don't want to go to the club with you, but you know what, there's this zombie obstacle course that sounds pretty cool. You like to go to that one? That sounds really cool. Those are the people that I want to meet with. So
Right.
make sure you're meeting with the right people, not the people that you're told to meet with. And the more that you can kind of understand where those people are likely to gather and hang out, go there, become a regular, become a known person. Because one of the things that really makes a difference in terms of who we get together with, frequency and repetition. The more we see someone, the more often we hang out with them, the
Yeah.
more fonder we get of them. This is how advertising works. This is how like the music industry works. That earworm that you really hate the first time you hear it on the radio,
Yes, I
but
agree.
you can't get away from it. And after the 15th to 20th time, now it's kind of a guilty pleasure. You're kind of humming along with it. That's that effect. There's a very similar effect in people called propinquity, where the more we're exposed to somebody, the more we are around with the same people, the more we connect with them. And
Right.
this works for us, especially in the long term. Everybody tends to agree when we first meet about who's attractive and who isn't. But that's not how most of how we meet our partners most of the time. We very rarely date someone we just met. Most
True.
of the time we're dating people that we've gotten to know over time. And over time, the idea of who's attractive and who isn't varies widely. If you take people in a class, 50-50, half men, half women, they're all at the first day of class, everybody's going to have more or less the same idea of who's the most attractive, who's the least attractive. At the end of that semester, nobody's going to be able to agree, because everybody have gotten to know everybody else, and the more you get to know someone, the more the personality shines through, the more that affects how you see them. So that's much more important, being able to connect with people, get to know people, make them laugh, which is the second thing. The most attractive thing in men is not your looks, it is not your money, it is not your job, it is not how alpha or beta you are, it's how much fun you are. How much fun you are to be around. There is a phenomenon known as the reward theory of attraction, where
Mhm.
we instinctively prioritize people whose presence in our lives make us feel good, make us feel rewarded, make us feel understood. We want to spend more time with them because being around them creates oxytocin and dopamine in our brains, goes straight
Mm.
to the pleasure center of our brains.
Right.
We want to feel that more often, so we want to be around them more often. So knowing how to talk with people, knowing how to tell a good story, knowing how to plan interesting offbeat dates, these are all things that especially like shy geeky guys tend to have in spades. They've just never used them properly.
Mhm. I love
And
that.
the final thing that I always tell people is that, and again, this is touching into the reward theory of attraction. Listen more than you speak. A lot of guys
Mm.
are always worried, how do I not run out of things to talk about? Well, that's easy. You let other people talk. Now, you don't want to go into interview mode. You're not Larry King. You're not trying to interview somebody for a job or for a news media. What
Right.
you're doing is you want to get to know them. So, but and I'm sure you've experienced this in your day-to-day life. I know your listeners have too, is
Yeah.
that we run into people who don't listen, they wait for their turn to talk.
Oh my God, yes.
And at
I've done
this,
that
yeah,
too, Harris. I've been one that's, you know what, I wait till they finish and then I talk. So guilty as charged here.
same here. And as you can tell, when I get revved up about a subject, you can't turn me off. But what is also true is that we're also all our own favorite subjects, and we also all feel that we have interesting things to say, and very rarely do we encounter people who want to hear that. So
Right.
when we do run into someone who is genuinely interested in our thoughts, who genuinely finds what we have to say valuable, that is a gift. That is a
Mm.
thing that they are not getting very often. So getting to know somebody and getting to know the things about them that touch on who they are as a person. So, not what they do for a living. What do they want to do for a living? What
Mhm.
is the coolest thing that they have ever done? What are they passionate about? What is, and if you just play the game of there is something fascinating about you, and it is my job to find out what it is, then you're going to get to know them on a much more intimate and deeper level than you would be if you stick to the standard. Where did you go to school? Where did you grow up? How many siblings do you have? And you don't necessarily want to leap into, so when's the last time you got your heart broke, or when is the last time that you've cried? But
Right.
talking about things like, you know, if you knew you had no chance of failure whatsoever, what would your dream job be? Or
Mm.
even like playing like fun little role playing games is like, if you were going to plan a heist and you knew you were going to get away, what would you like? Who would be on your squad and what would you be stealing? And then you can kind of like have this fun little role play of like planning out this Ocean's 11-esque heist. And that taps into the being fun. It taps into the getting to know them on a deeper level. And I can guarantee you, every woman who's been on a date has been to the coffee shop, gotten the same 10 questions. They've never had anybody who said, hey, if you wanted to rob a bank, how would you do it?
Right. I love that because it's basically you are catching them off guard. It's not a standard question, like you said. The standard 10 questions: what do you do for a living? Where do you live? Have you been here? Where you're from? What's your background? Your parents? The same boring questions. And Harris, before I let you go, anything that you want to promote, any book that you wrote? Because if you wrote a book, I didn't see it on the website. I apologize for that because you have at least 2 or 3 books in you. And talk about, I think you have a podcast, so talk more about that.
Well, the podcast, it got during the pandemic, got burned out hardcore. So I had to put that on hiatus. It is
Okay.
coming back.
Okay,
Uh,
good.
it is being retooled. It's going to be in a new format. I'm also about to relaunch my video work, which is going to be mostly on Instagram and TikTok coming up. So
Okay.
that'll be coming up. And also, I do have a series of books, and you can find them all. You can find them on Amazon. You can also find them all in one place at drnerdlove.com/books. And one of the things I would recommend to a lot of people, especially if they are, wanting to start out, is called New Game Plus: The Geek's Guide to Love, Sex, and Dating. I wrote this. It's a few years old, so there's going to be an
Okay.
updated version coming soon. But this is what I wrote as the A to Z instruction manual that I wish that I'd gotten when I was growing up,
Sure.
and it really gives a nice baseline to what is useful for learning how to date and how to meet women, how to meet men, how to meet both, whatever kind of relationship you're looking for. It gives you a baseline to start building off of. Because I could teach someone to date exactly like I do. I could teach someone to flirt exactly like I do. That's not going to be useful for anybody except for me. What this does is give some baseline ideas of, all right, here's the fundamentals of what you want to start with.
Right.
Now find ways of making this work for your personality. You don't need to be suave and smooth. You don't need to be, John Hamm. You don't need to be, whatever, you don't need to be Michael B. Jordan. You can be geeky. You can be awkward. They're adorkable is a thing for a reason. There are women who love guys who are, shy and sincere, but they're trying anyway. They love that.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to be, Captain ate too much red meat. Oh, I'm an alpha male. You're a woman. Come with me. No, women don't want that. They want a guy who makes them feel good. So
Uh,
they want a partner. They don't want a guy to dominate them, except maybe in the bedroom and with consent. But, find the things that vibe with who you are as a person instead
right.
of trying to imitate somebody else, because that will always come off fake. It will always work against you in the long run. And honestly, women are not stupid. They can tell when you're using somebody else's shtick. They can tell when you're not being real. You want to be authentic with them. You want to be genuine, and you want to be the best, most polished version of yourself.
I love it. To me, the kicker is be authentic, be yourself. That
Mm.
is it. Well, anyway, again, Harris, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you. Well, everyone, that was Harriso'malley, and you can find them at drnerdlove.com. That's drnerdlove.com, spelled out all one word. Harris, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. Really appreciate it. You can find me at peopleondating.com. That's peopleondating.com. Also, when you get a chance, please go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, review, tell us how you like the show, share it. Also, you can go to Spotify and Google Podcasts. You can find us there. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate you guys listening. I want to thank Harris again for being on the show. Much appreciated. And just remember, guys, this is just a conversation, no judgment. Until next time, I'm Will Morales. Please, guys, take care and have a great day. Bye.